At my birthday dinner, my mom said I was a mistake. The words hit me like a slap across the face, in front of everyone. My 21st birthday dinner, what was supposed to be the most special night of my life, had just turned into my worst nightmare. The entire restaurant seemed to go silent. My mom's cruel words hung in the air like poison. But what happened next? What my grandmother said when she stood up from that table? It changed everything I thought I knew about my family forever. If this story hits you as hard as it hit me, please hit that like button and subscribe because I need your support right now. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt like the black sheep in your own family. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. Let me take you back to 3 weeks ago. I had been planning this dinner for months. 21. Finally, legal. Finally, an adult. I wanted it to be perfect. Just me, my parents, my little brother Jake, and my beloved grandmother, Nana Rose. She was 83 and the only person in my family who had ever truly understood me. I chose Rossetti's, this upscale-y Italian place downtown. The kind of restaurant with soft lighting, white tablecloths, and prices that made my part-time waitressing paycheck cry. But I didn't care. I had been saving every tip, every dollar from my shifts at the diner, because this night mattered. This was my moment. The reservations were set for 7 p.m. I arrived first, wearing the navy blue dress Nana had bought me for graduation, the one that made me feel confident and grown up. I wanted to look perfect. I wanted them to see me as the woman I was becoming, not the disappointment I'd always felt like. My parents walked in 15 minutes late. Mom was on her phone as usual, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against the screen. Dad followed behind her like a shadow, checking his watch and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. They barely acknowledged me as they sat down. Traffic was terrible, Mom said without looking up from her phone. No happy birthday. No, you look beautiful. Just an excuse wrapped in indifference. Jake bounded in next, all energy and awkward teenage limbs. At 17, he was the golden child. Straight A's, varsity basketball, college scouts already calling. Everything I wasn't. Everything I could never be. But Jake had always been sweet to me, and when he hugged me and whispered happy birthday, "Sis?" It was the first genuine warmth I'd felt all evening. Then Nana Rose made her entrance. Even at 83, she commanded attention. Silver hair perfectly styled, wearing her favorite pearl necklace and a soft lavender sweater that brought out her eyes. She moved slowly but with dignity, and when she smiled at me, it was like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. "There's my beautiful granddaughter," she said, her voice warm and rich like honey. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like vanilla perfume and unconditional love. 21 years old, I can hardly believe it. For a moment, everything felt right. Nana was here. That's all that mattered. We ordered appetizers and wine, my first legal glass, which felt monumentally important at the time. The conversation started light. Jake talked about his upcoming basketball playoffs. Dad discussed a work project in his usual monotone voice. Mom continued scrolling through her phone, occasionally making comments about people she knew from social media. I tried to steer the conversation toward my recent acceptance into the nursing program at the community college. It wasn't Harvard, not like the pre-med track Jake was planning, but it was something. It was my dream. "The nursing program is really competitive," I said, trying to keep the excitement out of my voice. "They only accept 30 students each semester, and I made it in." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Nana said immediately, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "I'm so proud of you." Dad nodded absently. "That's good, honey. Steady career." Mom finally looked up from her phone. "Well, at least you found something you can actually succeed at." The words stung, but I pushed forward. This was my night. I wasn't going to let her negativity ruin it. "I start clinicals next fall," I continued. I'm really excited to start helping people. Helping people, Mom repeated, and there was something sharp in her tone. That's very noble of you, Amber. Nana's eyes narrowed slightly. She had always been protective of me, always seemed to sense when Mom's comments were more cutting than they appeared on the surface. The main courses arrived, and I thought we were past the worst of it. I was wrong. Everything went sideways when the waiter brought out the birthday dessert, a beautiful chocolate cake with 21 candles flickering like tiny stars. The other diners in the restaurant turned to look as the staff sang a cheerful, "Happy birthday." I felt embarrassed, but happy, the kind of attention that made me feel special instead of scrutinized. As I blew out the candles, I made the same wish I'd been making since I was 12, that my mom would look at me the way she looked at Jake, that she would be proud of me, that I would finally be enough. "What did you wish for?" Jake asked, grinning. "If I tell you, it won't come true," I laughed, cutting the first slice of cake. "Probably wished for a better family," Mom said under her breath, but loud enough for everyone to hear. The table went silent. Even the ambient noise of the restaurant seemed to fade away. "Excuse me?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Mom set down her wine glass with a sharp clink against the table. "Oh, come on, Amber, don't act so shocked. We all know you've never been happy here, always the victim, always so dramatic about everything." "I'm not being dramatic," I said, my heart starting to race. "I just wanted—" "You wanted what? A perfect family? A mother who dotes on you? Well, life doesn't work that way, sweetheart." Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Carol, maybe we should—" "Should what, David? Should we keep pretending? Should we keep walking on eggshells around her?" Mom's voice was getting louder, more aggressive. Other diners were starting to stare. "Mom, please," Jake said quietly. "It's her birthday." "Her birthday?" Mom laughed, but there was no humor in it. It was cold and bitter and cruel. "You know what? I think it's time for some honesty in this family." My hands were shaking. I could feel the familiar burn of tears behind my eyes, but I refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of everyone. "What are you talking about?" I managed to ask. Mom leaned forward, her eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made my stomach churn. "You really want to know, Amber? You really want the truth?" "Carol, don't," Dad warned, his voice firm for the first time all evening. But Mom was beyond stopping. The wine, the years of resentment, whatever twisted satisfaction she got from my pain, it all culminated in this moment. "You were a mistake," she said, each word deliberate and cutting. "A complete accident. Your father and I weren't even married when I got pregnant with you. We had to rush our wedding because of you. You derailed every plan we had, every dream we were building together." The restaurant felt like it was spinning. The birthday cake sat untouched between us, the candles now extinguished and smoking slightly. Jake's face had gone pale. Dad was staring at his hands like he wanted to disappear. "I was 19 years old," Mom continued, her voice gaining momentum like a runaway train. 19! I had a scholarship to finish college. I had dreams, Amber. Real dreams. But then you came along and ruined everything. Each word was like a physical blow. I felt like I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening. This was my mother. The woman who was supposed to love me unconditionally. The woman who was supposed to protect me from this kind of pain. "You've been nothing but problems since the day you were born," she went on. "Difficult pregnancy, difficult birth, colicky baby, struggling in school. And now this nursing thing, it's just another way for you to get attention, isn't it? Another way to play the hero when you can't even manage your own life." "That's enough," Nana said quietly, her voice cutting through Mom's tirade like a blade. But Mom wasn't finished. "No, Rose, it's not enough. I've been holding this in for 21 years. 21 years of pretending to be the loving mother when all I've wanted to do is what? I whispered, my voice breaking. Mom paused, seeming to realize she had gone too far. But the damage was done. The poison was already in the air, already in my bloodstream, already changing everything between us forever. Nothing, she said, sitting back in her chair. Forget it. But I couldn't forget it. How do you forget being told you're a mistake by the woman who gave birth to you? How do you unhear those words once they've been spoken? The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating. Other diners had stopped pretending not to stare. Our waiter hovered nearby, clearly uncomfortable but not sure whether to approach. I stared at my untouched piece of birthday cake, watching a single tear fall onto the chocolate frosting. Everything I had believed about my family, about my place in it, about my worth as a human being, it was all crumbling around me like a house of cards in a hurricane. Well, I said finally, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. I guess that explains a lot. I started to stand up, ready to leave, ready to run away from this nightmare and never look back. But then something unexpected happened. Nana Rose stood up. At 83, she moved slowly, but there was something powerful in the way she rose from her chair. Something regal, something fierce. Her pale eyes, usually so gentle and kind, had turned to ice as she looked at my mother. "Carol Elizabeth Morrison," she said, her voice carrying the weight of 8 decades and the authority of a woman who had seen too much and tolerated too little. "Sit down." The command in her voice was absolute. Mom, who had just torn me apart, with her words, actually shrank back in her chair like a scolded child. "You think you can speak to my granddaughter that way?" Nana continued, her voice getting stronger with each word. "You think you can destroy this beautiful girl on her birthday because you're feeling sorry for yourself? Rose, this is between me and my daughter." "Your daughter?" Nana's eyebrows rose and suddenly she didn't look fragile anymore. She looked dangerous. "Your daughter, who you just called a mistake in front of a room full of strangers? Your daughter, who has spent her entire life trying to earn your love while you treated her like an inconvenience?" Mom's face was turning red. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Nana said, her voice now carrying across the restaurant. "I understand that you're a bitter, selfish woman who blames a child for your own failures. I understand that you've spent 21 years punishing an innocent girl for choices you made." The entire restaurant had gone quiet now. Even the kitchen seemed to have stopped clattering. But Nana wasn't done. "But what you don't understand, Carol, is that I know something you don't. Something I've kept secret for 21 years. Something that changes everything." My heart stopped. The air itself seemed to freeze. What secret? What was Nana talking about? Mom's face had gone from red to white in seconds. "Rose, don't..." "Don't what?" Nana's voice was sharp as broken glass. "Don't. Tell the truth? Don't give this girl what she deserves after listening to your cruelty?" She turned to look at me, and her expression softened for just a moment. "Amber, sweetheart, there's something you need to know. Something your mother has been hiding from you your entire life." The restaurant felt like it was holding its breath. Jake was gripping his napkin so tightly his knuckles were white. Dad looked like he might be sick. Mom was shaking her head frantically, but no words were coming out. "What secret?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Nana Rose straightened her shoulders, looked my mother dead in the eye, and smiled. But it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a woman about to drop a bomb that would reshape everything. "The secret, my dear granddaughter, is about who your real father is." The world stopped spinning. Those 7 words echoed in my mind like gunshots in an empty cathedral. Who your real father is. Real father. Real father. I looked at the man sitting across from me, David Morrison, the man who had raised me, who had taught me to ride a bike, who had walked me to school on my first day of kindergarten. His face was ash gray and he wouldn't meet my eyes. "That's enough," Mom hissed, but her voice was shaking now. "Rose, you have no right." "No right?" Nana's laugh was sharp and bitter. "I have every right. I've watched you destroy this child's self-worth for 21 years. I've watched you treat her like she was nothing while I kept your dirty little secret. Well, no more." The restaurant around us had become a theater, and we were the unwilling performers in the most twisted play imaginable. I could feel dozens of eyes on us, but I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe properly. "Nana," I whispered, my voice cracking. "What are you talking about?" She reached into her purse, a small black leather bag she'd carried for as long as I could remember, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It looked old, yellowed around the edges, like it had been hidden away for decades. "This," she said, holding up the paper, "is a paternity test, done when you were 6 months old." Mom lunged forward like she was going to grab it, but Nana pulled it back quickly. "Don't you dare, Carol, don't you dare try to hide this anymore." "A paternity test?" My voice sounded strange to my own ears, like it was coming from someone else. "Why would there be a paternity test?" Dad finally looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Guilt, pain, and something that looked almost like relief. "Because," Nana said, her voice gentler now as she looked at me, "your mother was seeing someone else when you were conceived, someone she's never told you about, someone who deserves to know he has a daughter." The birthday cake sat forgotten between us, the chocolate frosting starting to melt under the restaurant's warm lights. My 21st birthday, the day I was supposed to celebrate becoming an adult, had become the day my entire identity crumbled to dust. "You're lying," I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew she wasn't. Nana Rose had never lied. To me. Not once in 21 years. "I wish I was, sweetheart. I truly wish I was." Mom was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streaks. But they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of anger, of being caught, of having her carefully constructed lie finally exposed. "You had no right to keep that test," Mom said through gritted teeth. "No right to interfere in my family." "Your family?" Nana's voice rose an octave. "This girl has spent her entire life wondering why nothing she did was ever good enough for you. Why you could never love her the way you love Jake. And now I know why. Because every time you look at her, you see him." "See who?" I demanded, my voice stronger now, fueled by a growing rage. "Who is he? Who is my real father?" Nana looked at Mom one more time, giving her a chance to speak. But Mom just sat there, tears streaming, shaking her head like she could somehow make this all go away. "His name," Nana said finally, "is Michael Chen. And he has no idea you exist." Michael Chen. The name hit me like a physical force. I'd heard that name before, somewhere in the recesses of my memory. But where? "Michael Chen," I repeated slowly. "Why does that sound familiar?" "Because," Nana said, "he was your mother's professor, her art history professor at the university." And suddenly, it all came flooding back. The boxes in our attic that Mom thought I'd never found. Old college textbooks with M. Chen written in the margins in Mom's handwriting. Hearts drawn around. His name like some lovesick teenager. Sketches of a man with kind eyes and dark hair that looked nothing like Dad's blonde, angular features. But there was more. So much more that was starting to make horrible sense. "Professor Chen," I said, the pieces clicking together in my mind. "He was the one who wrote that recommendation letter. The one you kept in your jewelry box." Mom's face went white. "How do you went through my things?" I was looking for your pearl earrings when I was 16, remember? You said I could borrow them for prom. I found the letter by accident. I was standing now, though I don't remember getting up. It wasn't just a recommendation letter, was it? It was a love letter. The silence was deafening. Even Jake, who usually couldn't sit still for 5 minutes, was frozen in his chair. He wrote about how much he cared about you, I continued, my voice getting stronger as the memories became clearer. How he hoped you would follow your heart and choose love over convention. I thought it was just a really personal teacher-student relationship. But it wasn't, was it? Nana nodded slowly. Michael Chen was married, Amber. Unhappily married, but married nonetheless. Your mother was his student, barely 20 years old. They had an affair that lasted 3 months. 3 months, I repeated, numbly. When Carol found out she was pregnant, she panicked. Michael was going through a divorce, but it wasn't finalized. The scandal would have ruined both their lives. So she did what she thought was best. She told David the baby was his, married him quickly, and cut all contact with Michael. I sank back into my chair, my legs unable to support me anymore. David Morrison, the man I'd called Dad for 21 years, wasn't my father. A stranger named Michael Chen, a professor I'd never met, was my biological father. Did he ever try to find out what happened to Mom after she left school? I asked. Nana's expression softened with something that might have been sympathy. He sent letters for almost 2 years, phone calls. He even came to the house once, but your mother had already moved in with David by then. She told him to stay away, that she was married and happy. But she kept his recommendation letter, I said, understanding flooding through me. She kept it in her jewelry box like some kind of treasure. People keep strange mementos of their past, Nana said sadly, even when those memories cause them pain. I looked at Mom, really looked at her, and for the first time in my life, I saw her clearly. Not as the cold, critical woman who had raised me, but as a scared 19-year-old girl who had made an impossible choice and spent the rest of her life living with the consequences. Is that why you hate me? I asked her, my voice barely a whisper. Because every time you look at me, you see him? You see the life you gave up? Mom's composure finally cracked completely. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. I don't hate you, she cried. I hate myself. I hate what I did. I hate that I was too weak to make better choices. But you took it out on me, I said, and the words came out harder than I intended. My entire life you made me pay for your mistakes. I know, she whispered. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. Jake reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Amber, this doesn't change anything between us. You're still my sister. You're still family. I squeezed his hand gratefully, but inside, everything was chaos. Family. What did that even mean anymore? The man I'd called Dad wasn't my father. The mother who'd raised me had built our entire relationship on a lie. And somewhere out there was a man named Michael Chen who had no idea he had a daughter. Where is he now? I asked Nana. Michael Chen. Where is he? Nana glanced at Mom, who was still crying into her hands, then back at me. Last I heard, he was teaching at Pacific University, about 2 hours north of here. Pacific University. 2 hours away. My real father was 2 hours away living his life, completely unaware that I existed. I want to meet him, I said suddenly, the words coming out before I'd even realized I was thinking them. Amber, no, Mom said, finally looking up. Her makeup was completely ruined, but her eyes were desperate. Please, you don't understand what this could do to his life. He's probably remarried. He might have other children. You can't just show up and destroy his world the way this is destroying ours. The way this is destroying ours? I laughed, but it was a broken sound. Mom, You destroyed our world the moment you decided to lie to me for 21 years. You destroyed it the moment you chose to treat me like I was worthless instead of dealing with your own guilt." "She's right," Dad said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him, gentle, quiet David Morrison, who rarely raised his voice or shared his opinions. "Carol, she has a right to know where she comes from. And Michael has a right to know he has a daughter." "You don't get to decide that," Mom snapped at him. "You're not even—" She stopped herself, but the damage was done. Again. "I'm not even what?" Dad asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Not even her real father? Is that what you were going to say?" The tension at the table was so thick I could barely breathe. This birthday dinner had become a nuclear explosion, destroying everything in its path. "David, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," he said, standing up slowly. "You meant exactly that. And you know what, Carol? You're right. I'm not her biological father, but I've been her dad for 21 years. I've loved her for 21 years. I've been proud of her for 21 years. Something you've apparently never been able to do." He turned to me, and his eyes were filled with tears. "Amber, I need you to know something. Finding out about the paternity test 6 months after you were born was the worst day of my life. Not because you weren't mine biologically, but because I realized your mother had lied to me about something so important." "You knew?" I gasped. "You've known this whole time?" "I've known since you were a baby, and I chose to stay. I chose to be your father. I chose to love you. Because that's what fathers do. They choose their children every single day." The tears I'd been holding back finally broke free. This man, this wonderful, quiet man who had never made me feel like a burden, had known I wasn't his biological child and had loved me anyway. "But why didn't you tell me?" I asked through my tears. "Because I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid you'd want to find your biological father. Afraid you'd love him more than me. Afraid I'd lose the best thing that ever happened to me." We were both crying now, and Jake was crying too. Even some of the people at nearby tables were wiping their eyes. But Mom sat in her chair like a statue, watching her family fall apart around her. "There's more," Nana said softly. "About Michael Chen. About why your mother is so afraid of you meeting him." I wiped my eyes and looked at her. After everything that had already been revealed, what could possibly be worse? "What else?" I asked, though part of me wasn't sure I wanted to know. Nana took a deep breath. "He's not just any Professor Amber. He's Dr. Michael Chen. He won the National Teaching Excellence Award 3 years ago. He's published 6 books on art history. He's one of the most respected educators in the country. So he's also incredibly wealthy. His family owns a chain of art galleries across the West Coast. When his divorce was finalized, he inherited millions." The implication hit me like a freight train. "You think Mom is afraid I'll go after his money?" "I think," Nana said carefully. "Your mother is afraid of a lot of things. Afraid of being exposed for the choices she made. Afraid of losing control of the narrative she's built around your family. And yes, afraid that you might find a father who can give you everything she feels she can't." Mom finally spoke, her voice hoarse from crying. "It's not about money. It's about the fact that he's everything David isn't. Everything I thought I wanted when I was young and stupid. And if Amber meets him, if she sees what I gave up, what I chose David over—" "You're afraid I'll see what a mistake you made," I finished for her. "Not that I was a mistake, but that choosing Dad over him was the mistake." "David is a good man," Mom said desperately. "He's been a wonderful father to you. Better than Michael ever could have been." "Maybe," I said. "But that wasn't your choice to make for me. And it wasn't your choice to make me feel worthless my entire life because you couldn't deal with your own regrets." The waiter finally approached our table, clearly uncomfortable, but needing to do his job. "Is everything all right here? Can I get you anything?" "The check," Dad said quietly, "and maybe a box for the cake." "Of course, sir." As the waiter hurried away, we sat in the wreckage of what was supposed to be a celebration. My birthday cake sat untouched, the "Happy Birthday Amber" written in knee frosting now seeming like a cruel joke. "I'm going to find him," I said finally. "I'm going to find Michael Chen, and I'm going to tell him who I am." "Amber, please," Mom begged. "Think about this. Really think about it. What if he doesn't want to know you? What if learning about you ruins his life? What if he's been wondering about you his entire life?" Nana interrupted. "What if he's spent 21 years thinking about the woman he loved and lost? What if he deserves to know he has a daughter who's grown into an incredible young woman despite everything?" I looked around the table at the people who had shaped my life. Dad, who had loved me unconditionally despite knowing the truth. Jake, who was my brother no matter what DNA said. Mom, who had let her own pain poison our relationship for 21 years. And Nana, who had kept this secret until she couldn't bear to watch me suffer anymore. "I need time," I said finally. "I need time to process all of this." "Of course you do," Nana said gently. "This is a lot to take in." The waiter returned with the check and a takeaway box. Dad paid without looking at the total, his hands shaking slightly as he signed the receipt. "I'll drive you home," Jake offered quietly. I nodded, not trusting my voice anymore. As we gathered our things to leave, Nana pressed something into my hand. It was the paternity test results, along with what looked like a business card. "That's his information," she whispered. "Current address, phone number. I've been keeping track of him over the years, just in case this day ever came." "How did you get—" "I have my ways," she said with a small smile. "When you reach my age, you learn how to find people when you need to." As we walked toward the exit, I caught my reflection in the restaurant's mirror-covered wall. For the first time in my life, I didn't see Amber Morrison, the disappointing daughter who never quite measured up. I saw someone else entirely, someone whose story was just beginning. But the biggest shock was yet to come. As we reached the parking lot, my phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. The message made my blood run cold. "Happy birthday, Amber. It's time we met. MC." My hands started shaking so violently I almost dropped the phone. "Nana," I whispered. Did you tell him about tonight?" She looked confused. "Tell who about what?" I showed her the message. Her face went pale. "I didn't tell anyone." "Anything," she said. "I swear to you, Amber. I've kept this secret for 21 years. I would never—" "Then how does he know?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. "How does Michael Chen know it's my birthday? How does he know about me at all? How does he have my phone number?" Jake peered over my shoulder at the message. "That's really weird, Amber. Like, really weird." Dad had caught up to us now, with Mom trailing behind. When he saw our faces, he immediately knew something was wrong. "What is it?" he asked. I showed him the message. His face went through a series of expressions: confusion, concern, and then something that looked almost like fear. "Carol," he called to Mom, his voice sharp. "Come here now." Mom approached reluctantly, still wiping mascara from under her eyes. When she saw the message, her reaction was immediate and violent. "No," she said, grabbing for my phone. "No, no, no. This can't be happening." "Mom, what aren't you telling us?" I demanded, pulling my phone away from her. "How does he know about me?" "I don't know," she screamed, and her voice echoed across the parking lot. "I swear I don't know." But Nana was studying Mom's face with the sharp eyes of someone who had raised children and grandchildren. "Carol Elizabeth, you're lying. I can see it written all over your face." "I'm not lying. Then explain, Nana said firmly. How a man you claim hasn't heard from you in 21 years knows it's your daughter's birthday and has her personal phone number. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. Cars drove past on the street. A couple walked by holding hands, laughing about something. Normal life continuing around us while our world imploded. Finally, Mom's shoulders sagged in defeat. He's been watching, she whispered. What do you mean, watching? Dad's voice was deadly quiet. Social media. He found me on Facebook years ago. He's been following our family, following Amber. He knows about her school, her job, her friends. He's been waiting. Waiting for what? I asked, though I was starting to suspect I already knew the answer. Mom looked at me with eyes full of fear and regret, waiting for her to turn 18, legal age, old enough to make her own choices about whether she wanted to meet him. He's been stalking us? Jake asked incredulously. Not stalking, Mom said quickly. Just keeping track, making sure she was okay, making sure she was safe and happy. Happy? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. He thought I was happy? Living with a mother who treats me like garbage and never knowing who my real father is? He doesn't know about that part, Mom admitted. I've been careful about what I post online. He only sees the good stuff. The graduations, the achievements, the family photos where we all look perfect. My phone buzzed again. Another message. I know tonight didn't go as planned. I'm sorry your mother chose to handle things this way. But I've been waiting 21 years to meet my daughter. If you're ready, I'm waiting at the Starbucks on 5th Street. The choice is yours. Dad, Dad. He had signed the message, Dad. I stared at the phone in disbelief. He's here. He's been here the whole time. He knew this was going to happen tonight. What? Nana snatched the phone from my hands, read the message, and turned to Mom with fury blazing in her eyes. Carol, what did you do? I didn't do anything. Don't lie to me. How does he know we're here? How does he know about tonight? Mom broke down completely then, collapsing against Dad's car and sobbing like her heart was breaking. I called him, she finally admitted. I called him 3 days ago. The parking lot spun around me. You called him? I knew Rose was getting suspicious. I knew she was going to tell you eventually. So I called Michael and told him everything. I thought if I controlled when and how it happened, I could minimize the damage. You set this up? I was shouting now, my voice echoing off the parked cars. You orchestrated this entire nightmare. I thought it would be easier this way, Mom shouted back. I thought if it all came out at once, we could deal with it and move on. Move on? Nana's voice was ice cold. Carol, you just destroyed this. Family. You humiliated your daughter on her birthday, lied to your husband for 21 years, and manipulated a situation that was already going to be difficult enough. I was trying to protect everyone. You were trying to protect yourself, Dad said quietly, but his words carried more weight than if he had screamed them. You were afraid of losing control, so you tried to control the explosion. My phone buzzed a third time. I understand if you need time to process everything, but I want you to know that not a day has gone by that I haven't thought about you and your mother. I never stopped loving her, and I already love you, even though we've never met. Take all the time you need. I'll be waiting. Michael, I read the message out loud, and when I finished, the parking lot was silent except for the distant sound of traffic. He never stopped loving her, I repeated, looking at Mom. 21 years, and he never stopped loving you. Mom's crying intensified, but now it sounded different. Less desperate, more heartbroken. I have to go, I said suddenly. I have to meet him. Amber, wait, Dad started. No, I said firmly. I've waited 21 years to understand why I never felt like I belonged in this family. I've spent my entire life wondering what was wrong with me, why I was never enough. And now I know it was never about me at all. I started walking toward my car, then stopped and turned back. "Dad," I said, looking at David Morrison. "You're still my dad. That will never change. But I need to meet the man who gave me half my DNA. I need to understand who I really am." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I understand, and I'll be here when you get back. We all will." As I got in my car and started the engine, my phone buzzed one more time. But this message wasn't from Michael Chen. It was from an unknown number, and it contained just 4 words that made my blood freeze. Don't trust him. Sarah, who was Sarah? And what did she know about Michael Chen that I didn't? I sat in my car in the restaurant parking lot, staring at that 4-word text message until my eyes burned. Don't trust him. Sarah. My hands were still shaking as I typed back a response. Who is this? How do you know about Michael Chen? The reply came instantly, like Sarah had been waiting for me to respond. His daughter. We need to talk before you meet him. It's not safe. His daughter. Michael Chen had another daughter. A daughter who was warning me not to trust him. My mind was reeling. In the span of 2 hours, I'd learned that my entire life was built on a lie, that my real father was a stranger, and now that same stranger apparently had secrets dark enough that his own daughter was warning me away from him. I texted back, "Where?" "Coffee shop on Maple Street. 20 minutes. Come alone." I looked back at my family, still standing in the parking lot. Nana was arguing with Mom in hushed, angry tones. Dad was comforting Jake, who looked like he was in shock. They were all dealing with their own pieces of this shattered puzzle. I started my car and drove away without saying goodbye. I needed answers, and something told me Sarah might be the only person who could give them to me. The coffee shop on Maple Street was one of those cozy, dimly lit places with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. It was nearly empty at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, just a few college students with laptops and an elderly man reading a newspaper. I spotted her immediately. She was sitting in the back corner, wearing a black hoodie with the hood pulled up. But I could see enough of her face to know we were related. She had my eyes, dark, almond-shaped, intense. She had my nose, my chin, even the same nervous habit of biting her lower lip. "Amber?" she asked as I approached. I nodded and sat down across from her. Up close, she looked to be about my age, maybe a year or 2 older. Pretty, but tired. There were dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. "You're really his daughter?" I asked. "Sarah Chen," she said, pulling down her hood to reveal long, dark hair. "And you're the sister I never knew I had until 3 days ago." 3 days ago? That's when my father told me about you. About what Mom, your mom, called to tell him. Sarah's hands were wrapped around a coffee cup like she was trying to absorb its warmth. He was so excited, Amber. So happy. I'd never seen him like that before. That's good, right? Sarah's laugh was bitter. You'd think so, but you don't know him like I do. You don't know what he's capable of when he wants something. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? Sarah leaned forward, lowering her voice. Tell me something first. Has he been contacting you? Calling, texting, showing up places? He texted me tonight. He said he's waiting at a Starbucks on 5th Street. Of course he is. Sarah closed her eyes and shook her head. He's been planning this for years, Amber. Years. This isn't some spontaneous reunion. This is a carefully orchestrated campaign. I don't understand. My father is obsessed with control, with getting what he wants. When my parents got divorced 12 years ago, he spent 2 years and $500,000 fighting for custody of me. Not because he loved me, but because he couldn't stand the idea of losing. Sarah's words were making my chest tight with anxiety. But the way he texted me, he seemed genuinely caring. He is caring. That's what makes it so dangerous. Sarah pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. Look at these. This is how he's been texting me since he found out about you. I read through the messages, and my blood slowly turned to ice. She's going to love me more than David ever could. Finally, I'll have a daughter who appreciates what I can offer. Sarah, you could learn something from your sister about gratitude. This is my chance to be the father I was meant to be. He talks about you like you're a prize he's won, I whispered. Like you're not even a real person. Exactly. Sarah put her phone away. And there's more. Things about why my parents really got divorced. Things about how he treats people when they don't give him what he wants. What things? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee cup. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. My mom left him because he was abusive. Not physically, he was too smart for that. But emotionally, psychologically, he would isolate her from her friends, control every aspect of her life, make her feel like she was nothing without him. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. Are you saying he's dangerous? I'm saying he's manipulative. He'll love bomb. You at first. Expensive gifts, constant attention, making you feel like you're the most important person in the world. But the moment you disappoint him, the moment you don't live up to his expectations, what happens? He destroys you. Systematically, methodically. He'll find every weakness, every insecurity, every fear you have, and he'll use them against you until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. I thought about the way Mom had treated me my entire life. Cold, critical, never satisfied. Was that what happened to her? Had Michael Chen's rejection turned her into the bitter woman who raised me? There's something else, Sarah continued. About your mom, about why she really left him. What about her? She was pregnant once before you, with his child. The coffee shop tilted around me. What? She miscarried at 4 months. It was traumatic. And instead of supporting her, instead of helping her grieve, my father blamed her. Said it was her fault for being careless. Said she wasn't mother material. I felt sick. So when she got pregnant with me, she was terrified. Terrified of losing another baby. Terrified of his reaction if something went wrong again. That's why she left. That's why she married David so quickly. She was protecting you, Amber. She was protecting both of you. Everything I thought I knew about my mother, about my family, about my entire life. It was all shifting again. The woman I'd seen as cold and unloving had actually been protecting me from something worse. But why did she treat me so badly growing up? I asked. If she was protecting me, why did she make me feel so unwanted? Sarah's expression grew even sadder. Because every time she looked at you, she saw him. She saw the man who had broken her heart and destroyed her trust in love. And she was probably terrified that somehow, some way, he would find you and do to you what he did to her. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Michael Chen. Running late? I understand if you need more time. I've waited 21 years. I can wait a little longer. But I hope you know how much this means to me. How much you mean to me. Dad. The word, Dad at the end made my skin crawl now. After what Sarah had told me, it didn't sound loving, it sounded possessive. He's getting impatient, I showed Sarah the message. That's how it starts, she said grimly. The subtle guilt trips, the emotional manipulation, making you feel like you owe him something just for existing. What should I do? Don't meet him. Not tonight, not ever. Block his number, change yours. If you have to. He's dangerous, Amber. Maybe not physically, but what if you're wrong? I interrupted. What if he's changed? What if he really does just want to know his daughter? Sarah reached across the table and grabbed my hands. Her grip was urgent, desperate. Amber, listen to me. 3 months ago, I tried to cut contact with him. I'm 23 years old. I have my own apartment, my own life. I thought I could just walk away. What happened? He showed up at my work, started calling my friends, my boyfriend, telling them lies about me. Said I was mentally unstable, that I was addicted to drugs, that I was dangerous. He destroyed my relationship, got me fired from my job, turned half my social circle against me. I couldn't even find words. That's who he really is, Sarah said. When someone tries to leave him, when someone doesn't give him the love and admiration he thinks he deserves, he destroys them. And if you're his biological daughter, if you represent his chance at redemption, at being the perfect father, he's always imagined himself to be. He'll never let me go, I finished. Never. We sat in silence for several minutes, the weight of everything settling over me like a lead blanket. My phone buzzed twice more, messages from Michael that I didn't even read. There's one more thing, Sarah said finally. About tonight. About how he knew exactly when and where your family would be having this confrontation. What do you mean? He didn't just randomly text you, Amber. He's been planning this. He knew your grandmother was going to tell you the truth tonight. How could he possibly know that? Sarah's expression grew even more troubled. Because he's the one who told her to do it. My world tilted again. What? He's been in contact with your grandmother for months, slowly, carefully, manipulating her into feeling guilty about keeping the secret, making her feel like she was hurting you by not telling the truth. Nana would have told me would she? Really? If she thought she was protecting your feelings? If she thought revealing his manipulation would hurt you even more? I thought about Nana's behavior over the past few months. The way she'd been asking me more questions about how I felt about my family. The way she'd seemed distracted, troubled. The way she'd looked almost rehearsed when she revealed the truth tonight. He played her, I whispered. He played all of you. Your mom's phone call 3 days ago? He was expecting it. He probably even guided her toward making it. He wanted this confrontation to happen in public, wanted your family to implode dramatically, wanted you to feel isolated and vulnerable. So I'd run to him. So you'd run to him. My phone was buzzing constantly now. Message after message from Michael Chen, and each one sounded more urgent, more demanding. Where are you? I'm worried. Amber, please respond. I just want to talk. Your mother has poisoned you against me, hasn't she? Don't let her lies keep us apart. I'm your real father. I deserve a chance. That last message made my decision for me. I deserve a chance. Not, you deserve to know your father, or I hope we can build a relationship. But I deserve a chance. It was all about what he deserved, what he wanted, what he needed. You're right, I said to Sarah. He's not reaching out because he loves me. He's reaching out because he feels entitled to me. And if you give him what he wants, if you let him into your life, he'll never leave. He'll consume everything, your relationships, your independence, your sense of self. He'll make you completely dependent on his approval, and then he'll use that dependence to control every aspect of your life. I looked at my phone one more time. 17 unread messages from Michael Chen. 17 increasingly desperate attempts to manipulate me into meeting him. I typed one message back. I know what you're doing. Stay away from me and my family. Then I blocked his number. Good, Sarah said, relief evident in her voice. But that won't stop him. He'll find other ways to contact you. Other numbers, email addresses, social media accounts. He might even show up at your work or your school. What should I do? Document everything. Save every message, every email, every attempt at contact. If he escalates, and he probably will, you'll need evidence for a restraining order. I drove back to the restaurant parking lot, where my family was still waiting. When they saw me, "Get out of my car," they all rushed over. "Amber, thank God," Dad said, pulling me into a hug. "We were so worried." "I met with his other daughter," I said. "Sarah. She told me things about Michael Chen that you all need to know." Over the next hour, standing in that parking lot under the streetlights, I told them everything Sarah had shared with me about the manipulation, the abuse, the way he had orchestrated this entire evening. When I finished, Mom was crying again, but these were different tears. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I thought I was protecting you by marrying David, but then I let my own guilt and resentment hurt you for years. And now, trying to control this situation, I've put you in danger." "You were 19 years old," I said, and for the first time in my life, I felt compassion for my mother instead of resentment. "You were scared and alone, and you did the best you could with an impossible situation. I should have handled it better. All of it. I should have been a better mother to you." "Maybe," I said, "but we can't change the past. We can only decide what happens next." Dad stepped forward. "What do you want to happen next, Amber? Whatever you decide, we'll support you." I looked around at my family, my real family. Dad, who had chosen to love me every day for 21 years. Jake, who had never made me feel like anything less. Then his sister. Mom, who had made terrible mistakes but was finally ready to face them. And Nana, who had kept a secret for 2 decades to protect me from a truth that might have destroyed me. "I want to go home," I said finally. "I want to have birthday cake with my family, my real family. And I want to figure out how to heal from all of this together." "What about Michael Chen?" Nana asked gently. "Michael Chen is a stranger who happens to share my DNA," I said. "But DNA doesn't make someone a father. Love does. Choice does. Being there every day, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. That's what makes someone a father." I turned to Dad. "You're my father. You always have been. And if Michael Chen thinks he can manipulate his way into my life after 21 years, he's about to learn exactly how stubborn the Morrison women can be." Nana smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her all evening. "That's my granddaughter." We went back to our house where Mom cut the birthday cake she'd brought home in the takeaway box. It was after midnight by the time we finished talking, crying and trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Over the following weeks, Sarah's predictions proved accurate. Michael Chen tried to contact me through every possible channel, fake social media accounts, emails to my school, even sending flowers to my workplace with notes attached. Each attempt became more desperate, more demanding. "You're making a mistake. Amber, I'm your father. Your family has brainwashed you against me. I can give you opportunities David Morrison never could. You belong with me." That last message was the one that convinced me to file for a restraining order. With Sarah's help and testimony, the court granted it immediately. Apparently, this wasn't Michael Chen's first time being legally ordered to stay away from someone. 3 months later, I was in my second semester of nursing school when I got a call from Sarah. Michael Chen had been arrested for stalking his ex-wife, his third ex-wife, it turned out. The man my mother had fallen in love with 21 years ago had become a serial manipulator who targeted vulnerable women and destroyed their lives when they tried to leave him. "You saved yourself," Sarah told me during that phone call. "By not meeting him that night? By trusting your instincts, you saved yourself from years of psychological abuse." "We saved each other," I corrected her. "You warned me in time." "Yeah, well," Sarah laughed, but it was a happy sound now. "That's what sisters do, right?" Sisters? I'd grown up thinking Jake was my only sibling, But now I had Sarah too, a sister who understood what it meant to have complicated family dynamics, who knew what it was like to question where you belonged. The real healing in my family started slowly. Mom began therapy to deal with her guilt and trauma from her relationship with Michael Chen. She also started attending mother-daughter counseling sessions with me, where we slowly began to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of honesty, instead of lies. I was so angry at him for abandoning us, she told me during one of our sessions. But I was really angry at myself for falling for someone who turned out to be so manipulative. And I took that anger out on you, which was wrong and unfair and something I'll regret for the rest of my life. You were protecting me, I said, in the only way you knew how. I was protecting myself, she corrected. I was too afraid to deal with my own trauma, so I inflicted it on you instead. But I want to do better, Amber. I want to be the mother you deserved all along. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, arguments, moments when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. But for the first time in my life, I felt like we were actually trying to understand each other instead of just surviving each other. Dad and I grew closer, too. Without the secret hanging over us, without the fear that I might leave him for my real father, he relaxed in a way I'd never seen before. He started sharing stories about my childhood that he'd kept to himself, memories of how proud he'd been of me even when I couldn't see it. You want to know the truth? He told me one evening as we sat on the porch swing he'd built when I was 10. Learning you weren't biologically mine was devastating at first, but watching you grow up, watching you become this incredible, compassionate, strong young woman, that's when I realized that biology doesn't matter. You're mine in every way that counts. Jake struggled the most with the revelations. At 17, learning that his family wasn't what he thought it was shook his sense of security. But gradually, he began to see that our family was actually stronger now. Built on truth instead of lies, on choice instead of obligation. It's weird, he told me one day. But I feel like I know you better now. Like, before, there was always this tension I couldn't understand. This feeling like something was wrong but not knowing what. Now everything makes sense. As for Nana Rose, she carried the heaviest burden of all, the weight of keeping a secret that had hurt the people she loved most. But she also became my strongest advocate in the healing process. I should have told you years ago, she said during one of our weekly coffee dates. But I was afraid. Afraid of destroying your relationship with David? Afraid of opening old wounds for your mother? Afraid of what Michael Chen might do if he found out about you? You were trying to protect everyone, I said. Just like Mom was. Sometimes protection and love look the same, but they're not. Love trusts people to handle the truth. Protection assumes they can't. 6 months after that disastrous birthday dinner, my family looked completely different than it had before. We were closer, more honest, more intentional about how we treated each other. The lies were gone, but so was the distance they had created. I graduated from nursing school with my entire family cheering in the audience. Even Sarah, who had become a real sister to me. As I walked across that stage, I thought about the girl who had sat in that restaurant chair 6 months earlier, believing she was unwanted and unloved. That girl had been right about one thing. She was a mistake. But not in the way she thought. The mistake hadn't been her existence. The mistake had been believing that love was something you had to earn instead of something you deserved simply by being alive. The mistake had been thinking that biology determined family instead of understanding that family is built through daily choices, through showing up, through choosing each other over and over again. The mistake had been letting other people's pain become her identity instead of recognizing her own worth. As I held my nursing degree and looked out at the people who had supported me through the hardest year of my life, I realized something profound. I wasn't Amber Morrison, the unwanted daughter. I wasn't Amber Chen, the abandoned child. I was just Amber, and that was enough. That had always been enough. 3 weeks later, I got one final message from Michael Chen, sent from yet another blocked number. You've made a terrible mistake, Amber. I could have given you everything. Now you'll spend your life wondering what you missed. I showed the message to Sarah, and we both laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly, predictably him. Even in his final attempt at contact, it was all about what he wanted, what he could offer, what I owed him. I typed back one last response. I already have everything I need. I have a family who chose me, and that's worth more than anything you could ever give me. Then I blocked that number too and deleted all the screenshots I'd been keeping as evidence. I didn't need them anymore. Michael Chen was the past. My family, my real family, was the future. That night, as I sat around our kitchen table eating leftover birthday cake with Mom, Dad, Jake, and Nana Rose, I made a new birthday wish. Not for a different family or a perfect life, but for the wisdom to appreciate what I already had. Sometimes the best gift isn't what you receive, it's what you learn to let go of. And sometimes the family you need isn't the one you're born into, but the one that chooses to love you anyway, mistakes and all. That's my story. That's how a birthday dinner that started as my worst nightmare became the beginning of the best chapter of my life. If you've made it this far, if this story touched your heart or opened your eyes to something in your own life, please let me know in the comments below. Because here's what I want you to remember. You are not a mistake. You are not defined by other people's choices or failures or fears. You are worthy of love simply because you exist. And family? Real family doesn't come from DNA. It comes from showing up, day after day, and choosing love over fear. That's the truth my 21st birthday taught me. And it's a truth I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.